There's no question about it. I mean, what he said is pure, rote anti-Semitism, whether he is talking about DEFCON 3 to Jewish people, whether he's talking about blacks are the real Jews. I mean, this is all anti-Semitism, as I will say once again for the 1,000th time, are in fact anti-Semitic. And am I friendly with Tucker Carlson? I mean, Tucker cut a segment from his interview with Kanye in which Kanye said a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. Listen, am I friends with Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan had on Roger Waters the other day. Roger Waters is a ridiculous anti-Semitic jerk. I mean, like,
and Kanye have just as much of a right to a political opinion as anybody else in this country, and they have the right to wear whatever slogan they please on their clothing. Stop trying to control minorities. They have freedom of thought just like the rest of us.
A few moments later.
I'm making a video about Candace tomorrow. I'm gonna pop off because the anti-Semitism is not okay and I will not stand for it. Stop defending these people who would never defend you. These people don't have love in their hearts. They only run on hate, and I don't want leaders or representatives who just preach hate nonstop.
Donald Trump's comments were anti-Semitic, as you all know, and insulting.
Hey, what's up, folks? So Ben Shapiro is calling Kanye West anti-Semitic. The Biden administration is calling Donald Trump anti-Semitic. Dave Rubin is calling Kanye West bananas and suggesting he's anti-Semitic. But I'm going to tell you the truth, and all of them are lying. Sorry, liars.
Okay, later, but for the main point is, so I took it over to Dove Charney at LA Apparel, and he founded Los Angeles Apparel. So then we made the White Lives Matter tees, and then when I put up the tweet, the DEFCON tweet, now he ain't releasing the tee because he's Jewish. And I'm like, see, this is my exact point that I'm making. Like, Jewish people have owned the black voice, whether it's through us wearing a Ralph Lauren shirt, or it's all of us being signed to a record label, or having a Jewish manager, or being signed to a Jewish basketball team, or doing a movie on a Jewish platform like Disney. And we understand, it's like, I respect what the Jewish people have done and how they brought their people together. What I loved about it, I love Dove just as a human being.
And this is the guy from Adidas?
Dove is from American Apparel.
Okay.
But I'm talking about put out my White Lives Matter tee. The White Lives Matter tee don't say nothing. It don't say DEFCON or nothing on it, right? I'm like, put it out. And he's telling me like, yo, I want you to visit the Holocaust Museum. And I was like, yo, I want you to visit Planned Parenthood. That's our Holocaust Museum. I'm like, yo, I put my life on this at this point. Because they've been fucking with me too long. They put the crazy narrative out there.
Let's listen to Ben Shapiro's take on why Kanye West is crossing his safe space line.
Addison says, what are your thoughts about Kanye West? Well, I mean, I've made my thoughts about Kanye West pretty clear. I mean, what he said is anti-Semitic. There's no question about it. I mean, what he said is pure, rote anti-Semitism, whether he is talking about DEFCON 3 to Jewish people, whether he's talking about blacks are the real Jews. I mean, this is all anti-Semitism. I do not think it is possible to defend that as not anti-Semitism, which brings somebody else I see is asking about Candace's defense of Kanye's anti-Semitic remarks. So let me just say this. Candace and I disagree about a wide variety of topics. One of the features, not the bugs, of Daily Wire Plus is the fact that we openly disagree about all of this stuff. I share my opinions about what I think Candace is saying. She shares her opinions about what she thinks that I'm saying. We battle it out. It's one of the things that you get at Daily Wire Plus is the fact that there is a wide variety of opinions. Listen, on a personal level, I get Candace defending her friend. She's very close with Kanye West. I get it. I don't think that her defense of Kanye is correct or convincing. I think that the real answer to the Kanye West of it is Kanye is a bipolar human being. I mean, he's made this very clear. I talked about this on the show. And bipolar people tend to say extraordinarily bizarre things and ugly things. And again, that doesn't excuse the bizarreness or the ugliness of the actual remarks, which, as I will say once again for the 1,000th time, are in fact anti-Semitic. But there's a difference between somebody cohesively saying what Kanye West said and Kanye West saying things in broken grammar in the midst of what appears to be a bizarre period of his life in which he is presenting Adidas executives with porn in front of their face. And I'm not going to treat that the same as Ilhan Omar saying openly anti-Semitic stuff as an elected congressperson in the United States of America. So when it comes to Candace, I mean, look, am I still friends with, of course I'm friendly with Candace. Am I friendly with Tucker Carlson? I mean, Tucker cut a segment from his interview with Kanye in which Kanye said a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. Listen, am I friends with Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan had on Roger Waters the other day. Roger Waters is a ridiculous anti-Semitic jerk. I mean, like, wide varieties of disagreement happen in this space. Bottom line is, when it comes to Kanye's remarks, undoubtedly anti-Semitic remarks. when it comes to Candace's defense of those remarks, I think Candace is dead wrong on what she said. While respecting her relationship with Kanye, she knows Kanye better than I do. She knows his motive. Okay, whatever. All of that I'm sure is true, and I will take that for granted. What she said about Kanye, I radically disagree with. I think that she is dead wrong. I think that it is not it betrays a lack of understanding about anti-Semitism and the scope of anti-Semitism. But we're allowed to have those disagreements. That's the way this works.
Such a victim. Now let's listen to Kanye West on the Drink Champs podcast defend and explain his DEFCON 3 tweet in which he says he spelled wrong.
I talk about the left, the Democrats, and how they prey with BLM on our outrage. Even when I put up the DEFCON 3 tweet, I was outraged at this point.
What does DEFCON 3 mean?
It's like level of
actually when it's DEFCON,
it's like nuclear war shit.
I spelled it wrong. I have a tendency to do that. But DEFCON is actually that you're preparing to protect yourself. Because that's what I did. Because once they cancel 4 SoFi stadiums because of what's classified as wrongthink, because you have groupthink, it is very important to have the black vote be in groupthink and to not separate from the thought and being completely in line with the agenda of the left, the Jewish media, and the Chinese.
Now, I listened to almost that whole podcast. It's over 3 hours. And personally, I would consider it the most important podcast of the entire decade. That's right, I said it. Why? I'm going to tell you with no hate in my heart why Kanye West shattered the matrix and what people in both parties don't want you to acknowledge, which is double standards, hypocrisy, speech laws being passed in America against the First Amendment, and the reality of why it is important to have tough conversations and not censor them out of the mainstream. We're going live now. The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? God bless you. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to a live episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. We're going to cover Kanye West Drink Champs podcast, the reaction from a lot of right-wing and left-wing media. Ben Shapiro is calling him anti-Semitic. Dave Rubin is calling him bigoted and bananas. Even Zuby is calling him hateful and anti-Semitic. I like Zuby more than I like Dave Rubin and Shapiro. So God bless you, my brother, but you're wrong about that. And crying victim and racism is similar to what the left does. But I want to show you just a perfect example real quick of this chick. I checked out her Instagram. Looks like a lovely lady. She's a TPUSA ambassador, a PragerU ambassador, and she very quickly went from we need to let minorities speak and think for themselves to, oh my God, that minority is speaking and thinking for themselves outside of the GOP echo chamber, and we need to shut them up ASAP. It's pretty hilarious. Let's watch.
Anyway, let's just watch it one more time. This is great.
And Kanye have just as much of a right to a political opinion as anybody else in this country, and they have the right to wear whatever slogan they please on their clothing. Stop trying to control minorities. They have freedom of thought just like the rest of us.
A few moments later.
I'm making a video about Candace tomorrow. I'm going to pop off because the anti-Semitism is not okay, and I will not stand for it. Stop defending these people who would never defend you. These people don't have love in their hearts. They only run on hate, and I don't want leaders or representatives who just preach hate nonstop.
You get it? You know, when a black man puts on a Trump hat, they say, oh, that black man is racist. That black man is a traitor or an Uncle Tom. That black man is a bad person, right? And then the right comes to your defense and says, oh my God, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Oh, you're not racist. That's what the left's saying. And then when a black man, instead of just talking about white liberals, talks about Jewish liberals and Jewish media, just like when you talk about black culture and black America, he starts talking about Jewish America in a similar way that people talk about white people, etc. Then all of a sudden, it's shut up, black man, says the right-wing GOP, PragerU, TPSA types. You know, don't go there. Be who we want you to be. Don't be yourself. I listened to the full interview, and I want to get the Donald Trump comments first because I have almost, you see how thick this is? I got 20. I got the proof, folks. I got printouts. I'm going to go through everything and show proof without an ounce of hate in my heart to show you why I believe a lot of right-wing influencers are lying about Kanye West, trying to make him look crazy and insane when he dropped the greatest podcast, in my opinion, of the decade. The most important podcast of the decade, being who he is, what he said, with unfiltered, raw, Trump-like energy of just saying exactly what he feels, regardless of how people feel about it. So important. Before we get into it real quick, because I think it'll be more digestible to people who don't want to hear this, here is the left-wing Karine Jean-Pierre of the Biden administration calling Donald Trump anti-Semitic. So remember, what comes around goes around. If you call people racist and anti-Semitic and it's hate speech, it's going to come back to you because that's what an intellectual featherweight does. I'm just going to explain this to people. I don't have hate in my heart, but you notice I don't use the words racist, sexist, xenophobic, climate denier, anti-Semite. That's what an intellectual featherweight does, because if you can't explain why something's wrong, you just default and try to shut it up. That's what Dave Rubin's doing. Shut up, Kanye. Shut up, Kanye. That's mean. I don't want to hear it, says Ben Shapiro. Of course you don't want to hear Ben Shapiro, because there's certain truths that you don't want really to be out there, Ben, and I've seen you work for years, and I'm going to tell the truth about everything today. But this is the word that you use when you don't want to really break down why something is right or wrong. So let's just watch the left using it against Donald Trump, like of course they will. When you open a Pandora's box, that word will be used against everything and everybody. Let's watch.
Donald Trump's comments were anti-Semitic, as you all know, and insulting, both to Jews and to our Israeli allies. But let's be clear, for years now, Donald Trump has aligned with extremist and anti-Semitic figures. And it should be called out, to your point, Darlene, just like we called out our Democratic friends and colleagues last week. And we will condemn and call this out as well. So we need to root out anti-Semitism everywhere. It rears its ugly head. We need to call this out.
Right, Donald Trump with a Jewish son-in-law that he basically let run his administration, with a Jewish daughter now with Jewish kids, and the most pro-Jewish, pro-Israel president we've ever seen. Yeah, he's a big anti-Semite, right? Donald Trump, who couldn't possibly be more pro-Israel. Like, if he was any more pro-Israel, he'd be the leader of Israel and not America. I mean, he pretty much is. And that's what he kind of said. I'm not just being rude. That's what he said. I'm going to read his comment that they're saying is anti-Semitic. Of course, we know Donald Trump is not anti-Semitic, right? Should I read it in my normal voice or my Trump voice? I'm going to do it in my Trump voice, not to mock Donald Trump, but because it just doesn't feel right if I don't read it in a Trumpier voice. So Donald Trump said on Truth Social, "No president has done more for Israel than I have. Somewhat surprisingly, however, our wonderful evangelicals are far more appreciative of this than people of the Jewish faith, especially those living in the U.S. Those living in Israel, though, different story. Highest approval rating in the world. Could easily be the prime minister. U.S. Jews have got to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel before it's too late." So that's what Donald Trump said. I mean, is it something I would say personally? No, I don't talk like that. But I'm not mad at what he said, and I'm not going to call him an anti-Semite. This is why I don't use these words, because everything is racist, everything's sexist, everything's anti-vaxxer, climate denier, everything's anti-Semitic, right? You can't talk about Jews. It's like, it's not anti-Semitic, but the reasons they're calling it anti-Semitic is because he suggests that U.S. Jews should care about Israel, and a lot of U.S. Jews don't care about Israel, and some would consider it anti-Semitism to say that Jews should care about Israel, because there's all sorts of anti-Semitism rules and laws that say, Jews in America are more loyal to America than Israel. To suggest otherwise is anti-Semitism. So it's this whole messy thing where he's conflating Israel with U.S. Jews, and he's even saying they're of the Jewish faith. And to be honest, a lot of left-wing Jews who don't care about Israel are actually not even Jewish religiously. They're more Jewish racially, and they're, mostly agnostic and atheist. So I'm not going to say it's the smartest thing I've ever read, but I don't care, and he's allowed to say that with his First Amendment. And if Donald Trump feels that way, God bless him trying to get that message out there. The worst thing you could do when someone does something like that is call them an anti-Semite, because basically what that does is, like, if you say, if I'm going to pass a BLM speech law and it says you can't criticize George Floyd or that's racist, you can't criticize this or it's racist, and you say, hey, I oppose that speech law, and then I say, oh, why? Because you're a racist? Because you want to say that? You get what I'm saying? This is what they do to anti-Semitism. When I stand up against anti-Semitic speech laws and Israeli loyalty laws that the GOP is trying to pass and has passed, I'm going to prove that in a second. Or if I want Kanye West to be able to speak the raw, unfiltered truth, they'll say he's crazy or I'm a bad person or I'm so hateful. I'm not hateful. Some of the greatest people in my life are Jewish. Some of the people that I love and appreciate the most as friends. I would never look down on them because of their ethnicity and or religion or lack thereof, depending which friend I'm talking about. I don't generalize, but I do also realize certain patterns, and I do understand social dynamics of what's going on. So I'm going to speak the raw truth about it. The thing real quick before I get into the speech laws and stuff that they're trying to shut Kanye up about is Dave Rubin suggested he was bananas, and Dave Rubin posted this clip. Of course, let's just be honest, okay? Dave Rubin, before he did this, he's like a comedian, right? Kanye West is funnier than Dave Rubin. So I consider what Kanye's doing is the same. What Dave Rubin is doing is what the left does. When they're not funny enough, they try to cancel you as a comedian. When they're not good enough to compete with your intellectual ideas on the right wing, they try to cancel you and call you crazy or racist because they're not allowed to compete. Kanye West isn't a comedian, but he's funnier than Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin's not even that funny. So I consider it Dave Rubin trying to access competition because Kanye West is smarter than Dave Rubin. Kanye West is funnier than Dave Rubin. Ben Shapiro says it's anti-Semitism and Kanye can't spell right. He's trying to say Kanye's too dumb to even take seriously because he can't spell right. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, you're nothing compared to Kanye on the scale of like thought. Thought leadership, but you're not dumb, but you're not, it's like, oh, he's too dumb for me. He's too hateful and dumb for me to even consider. Yeah, right. But what Dave Rubin was trying to shut up was Kanye talking about how when black people do something, he said a lot of black people will get blamed for what one black person does, but when a Jewish person does something, they isolate and say, it's not all of us, it's not all of us. But then when they accumulate wealth, they share it with a lot of the Jewish community. That tends to happen. Not all the time, of course, but I'm not black, so I can't relate to what Kanye's saying, and I think there's a different racial dynamic, but I'm going to talk about my ethnic group, which is I'm Italian, Polish, Czechoslovakian, a bit Puerto Rican, but I don't consider myself white, not because I'm not white European, but because I think just like the term black, you're black, and then we tell you what it means. I'm going to reject these narratives that the media makes because they try to lump me in a group, call me a racist, and then take away all my stuff and blame me for everything that ever happened. So I identify as golden. I think I'm golden. I don't look white. I look more golden in the sun. So I just, that's my pronoun. But anyway, long story short, with my group, if they would group me and look at me and say, you're a white people, you're white European. If someone white gets in trouble or someone white does something racist, the media, which to be historically accurate, like Kanye says, I know a lot of people don't want to admit this, but a lot of people running the media are not simply just European and they don't see themselves as white. They see themselves as Jewish, and they look at a lot of people, a lot of these executives, as goyim, which is a word that means non-Jew. Their ethnic understanding doesn't come from I'm a white European and we're all white. Their ethnic understanding, not all of them, and I'm not going to blame all people, but a lot of these executives, they look at white Europeans as the enemy. And I have a clip to prove that there are people out there that think that way. Not all, just like I wouldn't say that for white or black, but these people do exist. So long story short, as a white person, if I were to accumulate wealth and try to share it with other white people, that would be considered white nationalism, racism, evil. They would probably try to steal my bank account if I were to spread the wealth among what I consider my group. But then when someone white gets in trouble, we're not allowed to isolate and be like, well, that was one white guy. The media, which like Kanye West says, is mostly owned by Jewish people, though they say that's a conspiracy, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. But Wikipedia is your friend. Who owns CNN? Who owns Facebook? I mean, just look up your least favorite media platform and see who owns it. Big shocker. It's not racism. It's like saying that most crime in the south side of Chicago, we don't know who's doing it. Yeah, maybe it's Asians. Let's just pretend, let's play dumb. Let's lie and say that's racism. No, it's a fact. But anyway, that's what he was explaining. That's what Dave Rubin's calling him bananas for. He's crazy. He's bigoted. Why? For saying that other races of people get blamed for everything that one person does, like white people do. But if you're white and accumulate wealth, and you try to share it with what you consider your ethnic group, they call you a racist for it? No, Kanye's not crazy. He's not hateful. He's 100% right. And Dave Rubin is a fraud. And so is Ben Shapiro. They're liars. They're people who want to call anything that questions their worldview hate speech, like a snowflake leftists. And I want to show you real quick, and then I'm going to get into all this because I got 20 things I want to show you of hate speech laws being passed in America. TPUSA, PragerU, Dave Rubin, they say nothing about them. They support them. They cover it up. They call everybody crazy and racist who talks about it, who supports the American Constitution and believes in the principles of free speech. But let me just show you the worldview. I've played this clip before, but most haven't seen it, of Eric Mann. This is one of the most influential people behind Black Lives Matter. He's known as the guy who organized Patrisse Cullors, the founder of BLM, into this Marxist ideology, and he explains exactly where he gets his worldview. And there's a reason I'm saying this, not because I want to blame all people, not because I'm hateful, not because I have all this anger in my heart, but because if you want to understand how these people are thinking, some of them that are pulling the strings behind a lot of black organizations, simply calling them white liberals is inaccurate and misleading, because that's not where they get their belief system from. And if you want to understand why things are going on, you have to get to the bottom of it. Why is there so much crime in the south side of Chicago? Let's just act like it doesn't exist. It does exist. The Democrats act like it doesn't exist. It does exist though, but why doesn't it exist? Is it the culture? Is it fathers in the household? Is it poverty? How can we ever solve the issue if we're not even allowed to talk about it accurately? You have to be able to talk about this complex stuff openly without being called hateful, or else it's going to continue. So I'm not a hateful person. It's just fake people don't like to hear the truth. They consider the truth hate speech when the truth goes against their emotions or, ethnic bias. But here's Eric Mann, one of the most influential people behind the founders of BLM, explaining where he gets his ideology and worldview from. It's important. And then we're going to move on to all my papers right here.
How did you get started?
Well, I come out of a Jewish, socialist, somewhat anti-communist tradition. Not me, but that's what I come out of. Very strong anti-fascist. It's a joke, but I say that the fascist bastards were the first words that came out of my mouth, because that's all I kept hearing about fascists and Jews and genocide. And I'm very proud of my parents for not, at 5 years old, I was thinking about people starving in Europe. Yeah. I didn't know what Europe was. And there's a world made up of goyim who attack us and put us in concentration camps, and we got to fight them. That was the main point. My mom said, stand up to those anti-Semites. Don't let them push us around. So then when I met the black movement, I said, oh, I thought Jews were assertive. Wait till I saw this is the ultimate assertion, the ultimate anger, and...
So if you're following what he said, this is, look him up, Eric Mann, right? He was part of the Weather Underground, formerly terrorist group. One of the most influential people, if not the most influential person in Patrisse Cullors' life to make her an organized Marxist as a young girl. And he's explaining where he gets his worldview from. Let's be clear. Let's be very clear. I'm not saying that everybody believes this way. That's like saying every Muslim thinks this way, every Christian thinks this way, every white person thinks this way, every Jew or Asian thinks this way. That's not true. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is some do. So to call this guy, this is what a bunch of Republicans do. They call him a white liberal. He's just a white liberal. He was raised by a Jewish socialist household who told him that the goyim are attacking him. Goyim means non-Jew. It means that's the worldview he was raised on. There are non-Jews out there, and they're trying to put you in camps, so go fight them. And then he saw black people and thought that they were angry and wanted to exploit their anger. That's where his view comes from. What you're going to notice about a lot of these media organizations is that when you go to the top of them, it's owned by someone that's Jewish. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory that CNN was or is owned by Jeff Zucker, who's Jewish. It's not a conspiracy theory to go do your research and figure out who is sitting at the parent corporation, who owns the corporation. And when you understand that a lot of these people, not all of them, I'm not trying to generalize, but a lot of these people feel similar to Eric Mann, you'll understand where a lot of this double standards comes from. We can spread our wealth amongst ourselves and hire our own, but you can't. We can hate on you from more power. I mean, systemically, they have a lot of power, right? But we're the victim. We're Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin. You can't, no, we could dish it out, but we can't take it. You're a racist and you did everything in history. You did slavery, you did this. But if you say that we did that, then you're an anti-Semite. So this is the little game that they're playing at a lot of media corporations. And Kanye West, no offense, has figured this out. Is he saying it in the most graceful, digestible way to a lot of people? Absolutely not. But here's what I want people to do before I start my presentation. Don't be like Dave Rubin and say he's crazy, he's dumb. No, he's telling the truth, but maybe he didn't say it in a way that is digestible. So if somebody says something that's kind of true, this is why you can't just call everything hate speech, because the truth sounds like hate speech to people who hate the truth. So at least be honest and say, I don't like the way he said it, but he dropped 1,000 gems and there's an important conversation to have. But I'll tell you, I'm going to go through now why this is all happening, okay? I like Ron DeSantis. He's perhaps one of my favorite Republicans, but I'm just pointing this out. And for a moment, I really enjoyed Donald Trump and his raw truth. But this is Ron DeSantis, okay? With DeSantis poised to sign an anti-Semitism bill in Israel, free speech advocacy group asked for veto. So a lot of people don't know this, but Ron DeSantis passed an Israeli loyalty speech bill in Florida. So did Donald Trump. Donald Trump signed an executive order on anti-Semitism that critics say attacks free speech. What is an anti-Semitism bill? What does that mean? Because I don't like hate. I don't want Jewish people to be hurt. But how does making people stop saying something stop people from getting hurt? That's the antithesis of the First Amendment. The reason that the First Amendment exists is so different groups can speak openly about each other. We don't live in an Islamic country. We don't live under, an authoritarian rule by a left-wing communist. We're supposed to live in a free country where everybody's allowed to discuss ideas, no matter how rough it is, to then come to a conclusion and be real about it. So when you pass an anti-Semitism speech bill, that doesn't stop hate. That doesn't stop violence. That doesn't help my friends that are Jewish. These rules are not for the average Jew. They're for the wealthy and the elite ones that are paying off the politicians. It's like saying I'm anti-pharmatic if I say that Pfizer's paying off both sides of politics. Oh, anomaly, you're anti-vaxxer. No, I'm not. What does that even mean? That's a made-up term to smear anybody who's against mandates and anybody who is critical of any pharma product. Oh, no, you're anti-pharmatic. No, I'm telling you the truth. Big pharma pays off Democrats and Republicans to lobby politics. So do wealthy Jewish elites. That's just the truth. Some of them have different ideologies. And I'll get into some of the ideologies right now of the right-wing donors. Everybody knows George Soros on the left. I don't need to talk about him. Everybody's pretty familiar with him. But what a lot of people don't know is Sheldon Adelson. Rest in peace, by the way. He's passed away, and I'm sure he's a great guy. But Sheldon Adelson, if you see there, October 2020, gave $172 million to Republicans. $172 million. Why do you think somebody would pay that much money in politics? You think they're not gaining influence? Of course they are. Here's Times of Israel. Trump awards mega donor Miriam Adelson with a Presidential Medal of Freedom. You give us a couple $100 million, we'll give you a medal, right? Why not? So now it's important. Let's be honest with ourselves. Sheldon Adelson, what does he believe? He's paying hundreds of millions of dollars to the GOP, right? This is why a lot of these, influencers that you guys like, they won't speak up because they don't want their checks to stop coming in. They don't actually think I'm hateful. They don't actually think I'm anti-Semitic or racist or bigoted. They know I'm not. I have dozens of Jewish friends, thousands of Jewish followers. I love the Jewish people. I love the people of Israel. God didn't make mistakes when he made human beings. I don't see one race as inherently better than another one or more special than another one. I believe all of God's children have the ability to be good or evil based on, what they feed into. So I love everybody. They don't really believe I'm a bad person, guys. They're getting money. Hundreds of millions of dollars is funneling into the GOP. PragerU, TPUSA, these are all Israel. It's like if you even question that, you're not going to, you don't exist in that world. You're done. It doesn't matter if you're not being hateful. It doesn't matter if you're standing up for the Constitution. You're done. Bye-bye. We'll replace you with another clone. You notice all these Republicans, some of them are cool. Some of them you could close your eyes and you don't know which one it is because they're all replaceable. There's nothing organic, authentic, or unique about them. You close your eyes. I don't know if it's one of 50 people because that's what you guys are. You're just cookie cutters. They just prop you there to be a placeholder. But I just showed you Sheldon Adelson is the biggest donor when he was alive a couple years ago, and now it's his wife in the GOP. She's, I'm sure, still working, but who knows? God bless her too. Here's what he believes. It's important because he says in this clip that I'm about to show you that he served in the American military. And he says, unfortunately, do you know any military members in the United States that say, unfortunately, I served? My kids served in the Israeli military and my kids are going to keep serving there. He pretty much says I wish I served in the Israeli military over the American military, showing that he has loyalty to that country. Let's watch the clip for yourself on how he seems disappointed he served the United States of America over Israel. Interesting.
I am not Israeli. The uniform that I wore in the military, unfortunately, was not an Israeli uniform. It was an American uniform, although my wife was in the IDF, and one of my daughters was in the IDF, and my two little boys, our two little boys, one of whom will be bar mitzvah tomorrow. Hopefully he'll come back. Thank you. Hopefully he'll come back. His hobby is shooting, and he'll come back and be a sniper for the IDF.
Is it hate speech to recognize that the biggest GOP donor said, unfortunately, I served in the U.S. military, all my kids are serving in the Israeli military, and that's great. Is that hate speech to say that he's giving $172 million in the election cycle in 2020? So here's where it gets interesting, folks. Ron DeSantis, right? Perhaps the greatest Republican right now, signs a bill that takes aim at anti-Semitism. The proposal will add religion as a protected class when it comes to discrimination against students and employees. So he flew over to Israel to pass an American bill in Florida to take aim at anti-Semitism. Here's where it gets interesting. It's a religious bill protecting religious people, but there's no mentions of Christians in there. So why would a Catholic or a Christian man pass a religious bill that doesn't even include his own religion in the bill? How are you protecting religious rights when you're not even protecting your own religion in the bill that you're signing? What? So what does that bill say? This is from the same article. In that bill that Ron DeSantis passed in Israel, it defines anti-Semitism as accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Isn't that interesting? So Sheldon Adelson, who spends hundreds of millions of dollars to give to the GOP, who has said he unfortunately served in the American military and his kids served in the Israeli military, has lobbied politicians, and then miraculously they start passing bills at a certain point that says that you're not allowed to say that any Jewish person in America has loyalty to Israel. Weird. That's weird, isn't it? I'm Italian. I'm mixed up. I don't do this to like shapeshift and be like, I'm this, I'm that. I'm really all mixed up. I don't even know what I am. I'm like 4 different ethnic groups. I'm like 25% or less of everything. That's the truth. But I'm part Italian. I'm just going to pick that because I believe I'm 25% Italian, although I've never taken the DNA test from Susan Wojcicki's sister who owns 23andMe. But anyway, or Ancestry. I don't know, one of those. Point I'm getting to is I'm Italian. Imagine if I said all Italians are loyal to America and not Italy. Any suggestion that any Italian American is loyal to Italy is anti-Italiaphobe, and that needs to be passed into legislation. Would you trust me? You shouldn't. You know why? Because that would mean I'm a fraud. I'm loyal to America and not Italy, but I don't need to pass a speech law to prove that I'm loyal to America. I don't need you to stop questioning every Italian in the world. You get what I'm saying? That's weird. That's weird to be like, oh, suggesting that any one of my ethnic group might be loyal to this country, which is filled with us. That's hate speech, and we need to shut that up. You know who else talks about that? Our friend Ben Shapiro, the little liar, the little fraud. American Jews, whether ethnic or religious, are loyal to America, not Israel. Any dual loyalty supposition is anti-Semitism. Weird. It's one thing to be like, I'm loyal to America, and a lot of us are, but some aren't. But to say we're all loyal to America, all of us, every one of me is loyal to America, every one of my ethnic group, and if you suggest otherwise, you're an anti-Semite, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, But the biggest donor in the GOP, who's Jewish, said this on camera.
I am not Israeli. The uniform that I wore in the military, unfortunately, was not an Israeli uniform.
The military I wore in the uniform I wore in the military was unfortunately not an Israeli uniform. So he's sad and disappointed that he didn't serve Israel over America. But don't question his loyalty, says Ben Shapiro, or you're an anti-Semite. Weird. The U.S. State Department website has defining anti-Semitism, a bunch of laws that were written by the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance that is making all these Israeli loyalty / don't talk about Jewish people laws that are being passed through by Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and even Democrats in some cases. What do you know? What's one of the first laws? Maybe not the first one, but one of them. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. So it's hate speech to suggest that any Jewish person has loyalty to Israel. Weird. Here's another one. You can't use symbols or images associated with classic anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus, or blood libel. So that's hate speech now. It's hate speech to say that Jews killed Jesus. So now if you're a Christian and you say that, I mean, there's debate about that. If it was Romans, it's not like everyone did it. Somebody killed Jesus. That's not allowed in America anymore because they're bragging on the State Department website, folks. It's not like illegal everywhere, but they're like anti-Semitic acts are criminal when they're defined by law. They're bragging like these are criminal in some places, and they're trying really desperately to get them criminal everywhere. They're trying to criminalize speech. They're trying to criminalize making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews, such as the Power of Jews Collective, especially but not exclusively the myth about a Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or societal institutions. So as a Christian, mostly Caucasian, you're allowed to say that Christian fundamentalists run America, right? Oh, these evil Christians run America and they're too fundamental and they want to get rid of abortion. Oh, white people run America, they're so evil. You could say all that, but you can't say that about people who actually own media companies, because that's just like this crazy conspiracy theory that just shut up about Kanye West. Just blame white people. That's fine. It's a little weird, no? LeBron James, right? LeBron James attacks NFL owners as old white men and slave masters. He didn't have to apologize for this because he's talking about white people and slavery. I don't care. This is the difference between me and other people. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not crying racism. Oh my God, I'm a white person, and it's like, okay, LeBron James said he thinks NFL owners are slave masters. Who cares? I don't think that's racist. I just think that's his opinion. He didn't apologize for it, though. I don't think he has to. But he did apologize for his anti-Semitic song lyrics. Oh, man, what did LeBron James say that was so anti-Semitic? He said, "We've been getting that Jewish money. Everything is kosher." That's anti-Semitic? I would consider that a compliment. It's like, yeah, your ethnic group's doing pretty well on average, and we're getting money like you. That's like a compliment. I'm getting money like Trump. I'm getting money like Andrew Tate. I'm getting money like, Warren Buffett. Is that hate speech to say I'm getting money like Warren Buffett? Everything's Berkshire Hathaway? Of course not. But that is hate speech to even compliment a Jewish person. And LeBron James has to apologize. Why is he apologizing for that? And I want to show you something real quick, too, because I want to show you the speech laws that they are lobbying to get Republicans to pass through laws. Let's read one of the ones that Ron DeSantis passed through. Nothing about this is hateful, folk. It's a First Amendment violation, and it's a joke. The bill that Ron DeSantis passed, you can't accuse Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the priorities of Jews worldwide. So that's a hate speech violation, right? You cannot do that. Do not say that there's any Jewish organizations or people out there, none, that support Jews worldwide over the host country that they live in, right? That doesn't exist. Here's the Anti-Defamation League. We're going to get into who they are in a second, but this is right off Wikipedia, okay? The Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, formerly known as the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, is an international Jewish non-governmental organization based in the United States, specializing in civil rights law. It was founded in the late, September 2013 as an independent order, B'nai B'rith, a Jewish service organization, in the wake of the conviction of murderer Leo Frank. So they're telling you even on their website, it's like, we are a Jewish non-governmental international organization. But you're not allowed to say that we are what we're telling you we are. That, like, we're allowed to say, but you're not. It's like you could watch You could read certain Jewish websites. I'm very well studied and educated, and they're bragging. They're like, yeah, we're dominating Hollywood. We're crushing it. We're owning a lot. We're winning. This is great. We're succeeding in life. And it's like, God bless you that you earned it, right? God bless you. I don't care. I'm not jealous. I'm not hateful. Go ahead. Do what you got to do. If you earned it, get it. But then when you say that, it's anti-Semitism. So they love to celebrate what they own and what they do. But if you point out that they're doing it, now they cry victim. And who is the Anti-Defamation League? They're also, as Glenn Greenwald pointed out, behind PayPal. PayPal partnered with the ADL to fight extremism. So you have an international Jewish organization, or founded as one, censoring people via PayPal now. Here's Nancy Pelosi, by the way, explaining that if the capital of America crumbled to the ground, she'd still be taking your money and funneling it to Israel the same way they funnel our money to Ukraine. Let's watch.
I have said to people when they ask me, if this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. Because that's fundamental to fundamental.
Is that weird that an American politician is sitting on stage saying, if the capital in my country crumbled to the ground, got destroyed, bombed, whatever, crumbled to the ground, don't worry, our government will still be sucking our taxpayers dry and sending that money to Israel. That's not weird, right? A U.S. Can we watch that again just to see how categorically insane this is?
I have said to people when they ask me, if this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. Because that's fundamental to fundamental.
Yeah, I guess like if my country just like disappears, don't worry, we'll still be scrapping their money up and sending it to your country or that country. That's normal. So are you following me? The biggest donor in the GOP is a man who says, unfortunately, I served in the American military instead of the Israeli military. And then all of a sudden, within the next couple of years, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and the GOP start passing speech laws to say that you're not allowed to question any Jewish person's loyalty or say that they own media or institutions. You can't say that. But there's not any other speech laws for any other ethnic group. Why not? Because nobody thinks Italians run the media or yeah, there's some Italian people crushing it, but you don't need a speech law when nobody's saying it. They want to stop people from saying it because a lot of people are saying it because once you study and educate yourself, there's reality there. So they're making reality illegal if they consider it hate speech, which they consider everything hate speech because it's the kings of victim culture, the kings of victim mentality, the kings of censorship, the kings of, lack of self-awareness and self-accountability. We are not going to admit we're ever doing anything ever. It's always everybody else's fault, and anybody who even speaks about what we're doing needs to be shut down while we simultaneously just push harder and harder and then cry victim when you notice what we're doing or do 1/5 of what we do to you. You get what I'm saying? It's like they can't handle 1/8 of what they're dishing out. And that's called hypocrisy. It's the same reason people despise Democrats now. They're hypocrites. They tell you to lock inside, but they go out. They tell you to wear a mask, but they don't. That's the same thing that a lot of, Jewish media, people like Shapiro and left-wingers alike, they do the same stuff. He'll diss it out to Muslims. Fine. I don't call him a hate speech Islamophobe. Say what you want, Ben. Just be honest. I don't care. But then if you do 1/8 of that, he'll cry hate speech. So the biggest donor in the GOP said he wishes he served in the Israeli military over the American military. And then Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump start passing speech laws to say that you're not allowed to say that any Jewish Americans are more loyal to Israel or Jews worldwide, which, let's be 100% honest, not all are. I have friends that have no interest in serving Jewish interests worldwide. They love America. But a lot of powerful Jewish people absolutely do serve Israel over America, and they do care about Jewish interests over American interests. Sorry, that's a fact. Does that bother you, Ben Shapiro? You little fool, you little fraud, you little liar? Does that bother you that I say that there's one Jew out there that exists that cares more about Jews worldwide than they care about, America? Does that hurt your feelings, you little snowflake, Ben Shapiro? Does that bother you? Do you need a safe space, Ben Shapiro? Can you not take the truth, dude? You're a soft, fragile liar, Ben Shapiro. It's like if I said, well, I'm a Christian and every Christian's loyal to America. No, they're not. There are Christians that exist that care more about Christianity worldwide than America. Yeah, I said it. There's Italians that care more about Italy than America. Dare I say that there's Mexicans who care more about Mexico than America? There's Canadians who care more about Canada. There's Muslims that care more about Islam than they care about America. I mean, a lot of them do, because it's more righteous in their minds. There's Greeks that care more about Greece than America, but there's no Jews that do that, right, Ben Shapiro? You're a liar, Ben Shapiro. You can't deceive the American public forever, Ben. You can't cry hate speech and anti-Semitism forever, Ben. You can't ignore the fact that Republicans are passing speech laws that you support forever that go against constitutional rights, Ben. I mean, it's so obvious. People think it's so hateful. There's nothing hateful about what I'm saying. I'm Italian. You're allowed to question Italians. If I was an Italian who passed speech laws and called you a racist for questioning any Italian, I'm a sneaky liar. I'm in on it. But that's why they don't want you to say they're in on it, because either they're completely oblivious to how fake they are, or they are and they don't want you to see it. I don't know any other way to really put it. I'm just being as raw as I possibly can. Either you're completely delusional, or you're covering for something that you want to pretend like you're not covering for. I don't care. I don't care that Jewish people care more about Jews. Some of them do. That's fine. I don't care that there's a lot of Jews that care about Israel more than America. I don't think that's weird. I get why some Jewish people would care more about Israel and their own people. I also understand why some Jews would love America and have more loyalty to this country, and they value that over Israel. I get both sides of the equation. I'm not hating either side. But what I am not hating but opposing with righteousness, I have Christ on my side, I have God on my side, I have the truth on my side, so I don't care how much you guys blacklist me. What I do mind is passing laws to stop people from saying that it's even happening. That's evil. And then you're out here trying to call someone crazy for noticing the pattern of what's really going on and who's really silencing him and trying to control his community and why. You get what I'm saying? Same with Dave Rubin, this completely, I don't know what I should and shouldn't say, but it's like, he's not funny. Kanye's funnier and more talented than, oh, don't look there, guys, he's crazy. Dude, you're such a basic guy. You're such a basic placeholder that just does bare minimum whatever. So that's what's going on, folks. That's the truth. I don't know what other people are doing. I don't know why they're covering it up or what it is, but this is reality. There's no hate in my heart. The GOP is passing speech laws to stop you from questioning something that's very important. Kanye West talked about it for 3 hours aggressively, and it's the most important podcast of the decade because of who Kanye West is. He's one of the biggest people on earth talking about one of the most taboo topics that even the GOP won't even touch. And he's doing it in the most raw, unfiltered, and authentic way I've probably ever seen. It's the most important podcast of the decade. Dave Rubin has never done anything even half as impressive as that podcast in his entire life. Ben Shapiro could never tell the truth about those topics, so he has to try to deflect your attention away from it. It's hateful. Don't look there. It's racist. It's anti-Semitic. Some things could have been said better and worded better, but this is the tactic they use to stop discussion. Well, if you question the black crime rate in certain cities or in the country, you're a racist. It might be FBI statistic factual, but you're a racist. If you think that men and women are different, you're a sexist. If you think your kid shouldn't transition at the age of 8, you're a transphobe. If you want to, live life and go to the gym, you're an anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist. If you don't think, AOC and Klaus Schwab and Justin Trudeau and, Joe Biden are going to take your tax money and shift the climate of the planet, you're a climate denier. And if you identify anything Jewish that they don't want you to say, you're an anti-Semite. And this is all I'm going to say as somebody that doesn't have hate. I love the Jewish people of this world, the good ones, not the evil ones. Just like I love the people, all good people. But I will say this. Society has normalized the blaming of white people for everything. If you go to the white people who own a lot of media companies, not all, but I would say if you're going to talk about the black crime rate and say 12% are committing 60% of the murders or crime, violent crime, oh, you're such a tough guy. But then what if 2% of the world is running like an even bigger portion of media? But you can't say it though, right? Oh yeah, you're real tough. Yeah, dunk on the black community, but I know you know where you get your paycheck from, so you're going to shut your mouth about that element of pattern recognition. I get it. But the truth is, when you get to who these people are and you name who they are, because they don't see themselves as white, a lot of them. They see themselves as Jewish, and a lot of them, the reason that they're so willing to promote this, what I would consider like ethnic hatred of all white Europeans, they say, oh yeah, white people are so bad. Oh my gosh, I'm so white. Yeah, I'm so bad. Oh, it's so bad. And then they're like, oh, you're white? Oh, no, I'm not white. I'm Jewish. I'm not that. No, I'm not me. So if you guys have so much systemic power that nobody can talk about, right? I mean, we could lie to ourselves here and be like, oh yeah, Jewish people are really like not, they don't own anything. Like, it's a compliment in my opinion. I think Jewish people are smart, hardworking, good at business. These are all like their families raise them right, teach them about finances. I'm not hateful on why you own stuff, but it's like to say that I can't say that you guys own stuff, not like you're in on it, but like as a ethnic community, that would be like saying that the NFL, like there's no black people in the NFL. And like, I don't say, it's like, okay, it's not all black people, but they're doing well in the NFL on average, statistically, ethnically. So why can a group of people that has more systemic power than my ethnic group constantly beat down on me? Why is that not racism or anti-Christianism? When you have more systemic power in this country than my group, my religion, or my ethnic group, and you use that systemic power to constantly beat down on me, constantly beat down on my ethnicity, constantly blame me for everything, constantly say that it's my fault, constantly say that if somebody that looks like me does something, that's my fault. But when someone that is like a Jeffrey Epstein and a Ghislaine Maxwell, both Jewish, that's not your fault. Of course it's not your fault. But why when Charlottesville happened is it every white person in Republicans' fault for 3 years? And who's perpetuating that narrative that that's the truth? It's not all, but if you go to some of these executives, these are people that consider themselves Jewish, that if you did that to them, they would freak out and cry hate speech. So this is my message to the whole world. White, black, Jewish, Asian. It's like with Nori, who's the guy who did the Kanye interview. He's trying to say, oh, Kanye, like, you're, not call him racist, but he's like, why, I thought you loved, like, why you wearing White Lives Matter, Kanye? Like, I thought you were one of us. Like, what about black people dying in the streets? And I said to Noriega the same way. I like him. He's a successful black man, seems like a super nice, authentic guy. I'm just keeping it real. You could keep it real with me. I'm going to keep it real with you. At a certain point, the rap industry and the music industry is going to have to stop pretending that cops and white people are just running around Chicago and Minneapolis and just killing black people. That's not the big crisis going on, bro. It's black on black crime. Most rappers in the streets are getting killed by black people, not cops or white people. So my question to you, if you're going to ask Kanye West, why don't you care about people dying in the streets? I'm going to ask you, why don't you care about people dying in the streets? How come the rap community, hip hop community, and black community, and liberal community, how come you only care about black people who die at the hands of a white person and a cop? Because that's an extremely small chunk compared to black people being killed by other black people. How come you don't care about 90+% of black lives? How come you don't care about the food industry and the drug industry that's killing millions of black people? How come that means you don't care about black lives? You could put Black Lives Matter on a shirt, but do you really care about black lives if you only care when a cop or a white guy does it? No, that means you're willing to push a political or racial narrative at the expense of your own people. So Kanye West is freeing you from this thought process that you've been brainwashed by, a lot of left-wing narratives. So it's like, yeah, people don't get challenged much, so they get lazy. Like, why don't you care about black people dying in the streets? Why don't you care, Noriega? Because 90+% of them are not cops and they're not white people. So why ignore that? Because it's not a convenient narrative that the biggest threat in some of these neighborhoods is not a cop to these people. It's someone who looks like them, their neighbor. Not always, I'm just saying that's like a higher statistical percentage than what you're complaining about. And I'm going to say it openly to the Jewish community as well, because most people have nothing to do with this. They don't own media companies and this is not them. But to the people that are running the show, Self-awareness and self-accountability matter. You can't play the victim forever. They did a Pew study that asked a bunch of Jewish people in different left-wing, right-wing, whatever, what makes you Jewish? It wasn't the food, wasn't God, wasn't their ethnic group. It was remembering the Holocaust. It's a victim culture. Not all of it, but it's like, that's Ben Shapiro. He can't exist if he's not a victim. That's why he freaks out when someone questions him. Like, oh my God, I got to be a victim. His whole life, it's like, yeah, dude. The point I'm getting to is there's been a lot of bad events in history. Can we get to the root of them? For instance, have you ever done anything wrong ever? No, nothing's your fault. Just don't talk about it. Don't question you. Don't criticize you. Don't say that anybody's doing anything. No, that's going to work. No self-awareness, no self-accountability. Here's a crazy thought that a lot of people have never thought of because of all the propaganda. But what if you treat people better and then they start treating you better? What if with multiple media companies that your ethnic group owns, you don't bash down at other ethnicities all the time, every day, forever, and then cry victim when someone does 1/5 of you? What if you didn't exploit black activism to weaponize and turn them against an ethnic group that you don't even consider yourself a part of, and then cry hate speech when somebody says that you're doing it? What if you're in a community that doesn't agree with high interest loans and like financial scams and just like immoral degeneracy, and you self-reflected and were like, hey, maybe that is something that we shouldn't really do that much. No, none of that. It's just like do whatever we want all the time and just treat everybody like whatever, stomp all over them, step all over them, treat them like garbage, have double standards and hypocrisy for our own group, and everybody's just got to like that because we're going to pass so many speech laws that they got to like it. It's not true. And it's not to blame everyone for everything, but it's like when you bring Islamic people to London, it starts to change a little bit, and not all cultures mesh 100%, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay to be different and unique, but we got to talk about it and figure out what's going on instead of being like, oh, it's racist. It's like, no, London is changing. It's getting more dangerous and something's going on. Have an open conversation about it without hate and figure it out. It's like if you look at a lot of these things in America that are completely immoral, the reason is because there's people behind it that don't have the same morals as Christians, and a lot of fake Christians too, don't get me wrong, but it's like there's a reason these things are happening. It's because they're not following the same moral code. There's a lot of people with a lot of money that are following a moral code that they don't think they have to treat other races with respect, and they think they can steal and scam and bankrupt and destroy other people and have different set of rules for their own people. Not everyone feels this way. I would say it's a minority of people who are doing this, but they absolutely exist. And people don't know this because they've never even read certain texts. I'm not saying that it's everybody, and I'm not saying everyone's to blame, but how can we ever get to the root of what's going on if we can't talk about it? It would be like if black gangs in America are the #1 killer of black people, but if I mentioned that black gangs were killing black people, they said that that was racist, and that means that I think all black people are gangbangers. I didn't say that. I said that there are gangs. It's like cartels or, it's like, I'm not saying every Mexican's doing this. Like when Trump said rapist, I'm not saying everyone's doing this, but it does exist. But this is what the world does. They say that's anti-Semitism. You mean all people. No, I don't. I'm just saying that there are people that are existing under a different moral code, similar to Eric Mann, where he explains that he sees the world as us versus them. It's my people versus your people. And this goes for every ethnic group and every religion. I'm not just blaming one. I'm just saying, if you look around at some of your least favorite companies, or maybe most favorite companies, and see who the CEO or the founder or the owner is, you're going to start noticing patterns. And then when you start noticing patterns, they're going to call you certain names. Not because you're mean or hateful, but because I guess they don't want anyone to know that they're doing it, and they just think it's okay. And if anybody questions it, that they're bad, because I don't think that's the way to go. I think they're doing that in certain cases with certain media companies, because the second that people start to realize what's going on and get away from the narrative they're pushing, which is black versus white, white man versus black man, slavery movie versus slavery movie, black Ariel, what I'm saying, your kids are trans, just do that, just do that. And then when you're like, but what are you doing? Whoa, I'm doing nothing. Okay, nothing. And I'm not trying to be like a jerk about it or blame people, but it's like, let's be 100% honest. If two people of the same caliber of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were both Chinese, you think no conservatives would be like, maybe they're working for China? Or if they were both Muslim, you'd be like, maybe, and Saudi Arabian, or like, maybe they're, you know, you get what I'm saying? People would be like, I'm not saying for sure, because it could be totally random, but who knows? I'm not saying that's who they're working for. I don't know that. But I'm just saying, don't you notice that you would be able to say that in the Conservative Party and the Republican Party and no one would care? But if you say that for this, they'll say that's, oh no, that's... So I get what Kanye was saying, where if I accumulate wealth, it's racist if I share it amongst my people. But when you accumulate wealth, that's all you do, which is fine. Not all, but a lot of people do that. When you get in trouble, only one of you gets in trouble. It's not us. It's just him. No, that's fair. I don't want to blame everybody for one person, but you don't give me that same luxury. The media does not do the same to me. So a lot of people will be upset about it. A lot of people will consider it hate. But what Kanye did was got to the core of what they're doing to everyone else and did it to them for 3 hours on the biggest platform in the world. Does that make it right? Does that make it okay? I mean, you could decide for yourself, watch it, but I found it to be the most important podcast of the decade for that reason, because it's people in high-level positions that are treating people like this for 30 years, and then one day they get the same thing that they've been dishing out, and watch how they respond. I mean, even his tweet, which was misspelled, they closed his bank account. I'm not saying he should have said that, but there have been crazier things that have gone on. There have been people who've committed like high-level crimes, rappers sitting in prison, rapists, murderers, you know, like people distributing like probably child pornography that have never had that happen. And Kanye, you know, tweets one time about something and gets his bank account closed. And then Ben Shapiro comes out of the woodworks and calls him an anti-Semite. And then Dave Rubin comes out of the woodworks and calls him crazy and bananas. Someone said Revolt TV has just deleted the Ye interview. I told people to watch that interview before it goes down, because it's the most important interview and podcast of the decade, and it's not going to last very long because Kanye went further than anyone's ever gone publicly for 3 hours. I'm not surprised it's gone. It's going to be wiped out of everywhere forever for the end of time. And they're already starting to call Kanye West Hitler. Like, there's already people with blue check marks being like, that was what that was. It had 2 million views. Guys, I already watched the whole interview on Revolt TV website. I mean, hopefully somebody saves it, but I had no doubt in my mind that that wasn't going to last on YouTube for more than 48 hours. I told people last night, go watch that while you can. It's not going to last there. How many terrible left-wing videos are on YouTube that you could watch? How many awful, terrible takes, hateful rhetoric is still there? You get what I'm saying? It's not going to last very long. Someone said the cowards apologized for it. Well, the black community is under captivity by their own people. Noriega is getting called a bad person because he didn't question Kanye enough on the George Floyd narrative. When you're in these worlds, guys, they try to control you. The same way the media tries to control us, the black community wants to control black athletes, celebrities, because if you do what Kanye does, you're not black. You get what I'm saying? You're a race traitor. You're a bad person. You're whatever. You know, they have a word for everything. Same with being like a white liberal. Oh, well, white liberals are more in captivity than anybody else in their own thoughts, because you can't be a left winger anymore and tell the truth. It's not possible. And then when you go to the right wing, there's always like little matrices for you. Guys, I noticed, I told you guys about the speech laws that the Republican Party was passing. I learned about these in 2019. And I said to myself, I don't believe in hate speech laws, because I don't believe, as somebody that doesn't want Jewish people to be hurt, I don't think a speech law is going to stop that from being hurt. And here's the kicker, guys, and I'm not trying to get aggressive, but I'm so tired of these phony right-wing Zionist shill, idiot, liar losers that for 3 years just suck up a bunch of donor money and say they love Jews so much. And then when Israel gets locked down and they're being forced Pfizer shots or they can't go to a freaking restaurant, all of a sudden all these right-wing Zionists don't have anything to say. People like Mike Pompeo that'll say anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. That's all Mike Pompeo says. He's like, oh my God, everything's anti. Where was Mike Pompeo when Jews in Israel were being forced vaccinated or they couldn't go to a freaking restaurant? Where was he? Where were all these little sleazy GOP shills who just suck up donor money? Where were they when Israel actually needed help, when Jews actually needed help? You know, who was in the streets in 2019 when they were trying to force vaccinate Orthodox kids in New York City and the Jews were out in the streets because they didn't want to vaccinate their children? Yeah, you guys only show up when the donor money's there. You guys only show up for CPAC. You only show up for the TPUSA event. You're not, you use and exploit Jews the same way left-wingers use and exploit blacks and Hispanics. You're the same exact version of what you hate. You become what you hate. You could say you're not hateful. Oh, and I'm way less hateful than a lot of these Republicans. I have no hate in my heart. They stand on stage and they hate the left wing, and then they become the left wing because you become what you hate. Doesn't matter if you're black or Jewish or white or Republican or liberal. If your energy comes from actual hate of them, you'll end up becoming what you hate. And that's what right-wingers have become. They become the left wing. They cry racism, they cry hate speech, they cry anti-Semitism, and they defend speech laws. You exploit and use Jews and Israel for your own social status, political agenda. When I found out that the Republican Party was passing speech laws in 2019, guys, conservative influencers that were friends of mine, they didn't tell me you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Let me explain why that's not a... They said, anomaly, let's just win the election. I'm flying with Ben Shapiro. I'm this, I'm that. They didn't care that there were speech laws being passed in America that go against the Constitution. And if you could pass one speech law, you could pass 100. Once you eliminate the First Amendment, it's not just Louis Farrakhan or David Duke or Alex Jones or Owen Benjamin. Yeah, you're next. I got the vaccine, so I get to go to... First, it's the vaccine, then it's going to be something else. If you played along to force vaccination and use your vaccine card to go places, you're next. We're first, you're next. You're not safe because you got the Pfizer shot. You're next. So you should stand in line for any sort of speech law or anybody getting censored, because if they could shut up one, they could shut up all. Even if you idealistically hate them, stand up for them on the right principles. Anyway, these people don't care about Jews or Israel, guys. They use and exploit it for their own social status, their own fame, and their own bank account. I haven't had a single person, God bless them, not Zuby, who cried anti-Semitism and racism and lied about Kanye West when Kanye dropped a way more important podcast than he's ever done. Not Dave Rubin, who for a comedian is wildly not funny with his stand-up, and Kanye's funnier than him. Not Ben Shapiro, who says that you can't question that a single person from his ethnic group might have loyalty to another country. None of these people have ever been able to disprove what I just said in this entire... Because they can't. This is what an intellectual featherweight or a liar does to shut you up when they can't disprove it. They call you a racist, they call you a sexist, they call you a xenophobe, a climate denier, an anti-Semite, anti-vaxxer, whatever. Anti-Semite is the racist word that the right wing uses when they can't explain why someone shouldn't say that, because they can't handle it, because most of the money they're getting is telling them to do that. They don't come to me and say, oh, anomaly, you're wrong. They say, oh, and not the people I just mentioned, these are others. They say, my podcast is sponsored by PragerU and he wouldn't like that. I'm signed to TPUSA and they wouldn't allow that, because they know where their paychecks are coming from. So they didn't want me to. This is when I realized, and people don't understand, I'm not saying this because I even care. I don't. You can't stop me. You can't shadow ban me. You can't blacklist me. I'm uncancelable. But there's a reason that I'm not in more places. And I don't care. There could be millions of reasons. But I've essentially blacklisted myself since 2019 because they aligned me with the far right because I believed in the First Amendment. I'm like, I don't think you should kick Louis Farrakhan off Twitter. I don't think you should pass a speech law in Florida that says you can't criticize Israel. I don't think that, not because I agree with everything that Louis Farrakhan or the speech law says. I just believe an American citizen should be allowed to say that, and I don't believe that Ron DeSantis saved a single Jewish life by passing a speech bill. Neither did Donald Trump, neither does Ben Shapiro. You can't stop violence with speech laws. It's the other way around. When people aren't allowed to speak openly, they become more hateful, more angry, and that doesn't excuse their hate and anger. I don't think you should allow Satan to win. The devil wants you to hate. The devil wants you to be angry. He wants you to do. Don't do that. Be calm, be peaceful, be reasonable, be fair, be honest, be loving, and be compassionate with all human beings on earth. Don't give in to the hate. But not everybody's that strong. So when you cut someone's tongue out, not only do you not prove them wrong, but you also, the hate starts to fester up. You kick them off a platform, they start to get pissed off. I'm not a pissed off person, but I'm not going to lie. When people take away 6 figures from what I would have normally made through social media censorship, I mean, it's kind of annoying. I can't even go on vacation. I look at my phone and I've just been demonetized or I've just been banned. It's like, these people won't leave me alone, to the extent of like, at a certain point, when you take so many things away from me and you treat me like I'm a freaking, like 2 steps away from a prisoner for not getting a Pfizer shot, or even worse than that, yeah, it's a little annoying. It doesn't make me like love you more. It makes me like annoyed. So taking things away from someone doesn't make them like you more. This is just human psychology. You can't stop anti-Semitic violence by passing a law that says you can't criticize Jews or Israel. It doesn't work that way. And I'm telling you why they're doing it. You think Donald Trump wakes up in the morning and says, let me pass a executive order that says you can't talk about Israeli loyalty? You think Donald Trump just thinks of these things for himself? No, I just told you who the biggest donor in the Republican Party is. He spends hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you think they're just Operation Warp Speeding for fun? You think they just thought of that? No, come on, guys. It's money, Why? Like, how many millions of dollars did Joe Biden take from Big Pharma? Like 7 million, 8 million? You think he just feels that way naturally? You think Joe Biden wouldn't be selling freaking plastic bags if the plastic bag industry didn't give him $8 million? These people are bought off. They're bought and paid for. They're freaking liars. And if it's not the money that's buying them off, it's the social status. They know if they told the truth like Anomaly, they'd get treated like Anomaly. They'd get blacklisted. Behind the scenes, I've essentially been blacklisted. The one event I tried to go to as a citizen, not even as a speaker, obviously I'm a better speaker than everybody on the stage, except for like 1 or 2 people maybe, but in general, I'm just trying to go as a citizen, and I'm getting a phone call because they red flagged my tweets and had an issue with my tweets, and I almost didn't get to go. I don't care either way. I'm just saying I'm blacklisted from most conservative media because I tell the truth about Israeli speech laws. I am blacklisted from most conservative media because I can't be bought and sold. I'm not another pawn and I'm not another puppet. I'm not bragging just to say something. I'm self-aware. I'm better than most of these people. It's just a fact. Everybody knows it. You put me on a stage, I'm going to blow these people out of the water. A bunch of these little clones and frauds, they get there because they listen. They're not, it's like when I had record deals when I was 19, 20, 21 and they tried to sign me. I never signed a deal, but they were testing my loyalty. I'm not just saying this to act like it's true. It is true. They're doing things that are not right, and I say no, and then they start pressuring me. They're looking for someone that listens. They test you. Hey, do this. If you, okay, yeah, we could put him there because he's not going to rock the boat. They mold you. They want moldable little pawns to be placeholders so nobody ever figures out the truth. This is who they put on a stage. And I don't care. I got 1 billion views. How did I get 1 billion views when I'm blacklisted from the music industry, I'm blacklisted from left-wing media, and I'm blacklisted from most conservative events? How did I get 1 billion views? It's because I'm the truth. You guys are liars. You can't lie forever. It's like with the left. Yeah, you could lie to yourself, but you can't lie forever. Oh, we're so right and we're so left-wing. Yeah, look at San Francisco. You can lie with the press. You can lie on social media. You can lie with little minions and all these, but at the end of the day, San Francisco is San Francisco. So you want to act like it's so great. San Francisco is a shithole, okay? That's what reality looks like. All these lies about how great left-wingism is, your kid did this and transition, why is he so depressed, I'm not saying everybody that does that's depressed, but it's like, How many stories I've heard? Well, this person's 10 and they transitioned. I'm like, I'm a nice person. How's it going? Oh, they're depressed. They're suicidal. They hate themselves. Their parents. You can lie as much as you want, but the truth will win. I don't give a crap what you say, what you do. These people, a lot of Republicans treat me like Ron Paul. What they did to Ron Paul is they acted like he didn't exist. That was their strategy to defeat Ron Paul. Because if they put Ron Paul on television as much as they put on Obama, America would have loved Ron Paul. So they did the ignore treatment. Who's Ron Paul? He doesn't exist. You think these people don't know who I am? I don't care. I don't think I'm that special. I'm just saying, of course they do. There's talks going on right now. Oh my gosh. And I've had tweet threads talking about this stuff that have reached millions of people. You think that, well, he's far right. Well, he's this, he's that. We can't let him on. I don't need your permission to be on. I've been on. You can't cover this up forever. It's not healthy. It's not going to help. And there's a reason that the GOP never gets anything done. And it's deeper than just Adam Kinzinger, who's a clown, and Mitt Romney, who's a clown, and Liz Cheney, who's a clown. These are all clowns that everyone knows are clowns. But the reason the GOP never gets anything done is deeper than even that. And Kanye was talking about Jared Kushner and the Kushners and stuff. I mean, it was kind of loose and kind of all up. But, I mean, that's, to me, closer to why the GOP never gets anything done than talking about Adam Kinzinger. I mean, he's a joke. Don't get me wrong. Adam Kinzinger, I wouldn't even consider him, like, controlled opposition. He's just like a Democrat. Like, pretend. I mean, I guess that would be controlled opposition. I don't know. He's like not even a Republican at all, or a conservative. But then there's other people that are like doing different stuff in weirder ways. Like, they're the obvious. Like, they're, 99.9999999% of Trump supporters and conservatives know that Adam Kinzinger's a joke, right? But not everybody knows the next layer and the next layer. There's always like a layer behind it. Like, they're the obvious clowns. They're going to lose. Kinzinger will never win an election in the right wing again. Neither will Liz Cheney. They're done. Their career's over. But, then why did the GOP end up in a lockdown selling vaccines? Like, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? This is the next layer. Well, we don't want to look at that. There's layers to it, but it's all good. Someone said, whoever throws Kanye under the bus is controlled by blank, blank, blank. I mean, either that or ignorance to reality. I give people compassion. I treat others the way I want to be treated. Maybe they're misled, but you got to understand what's so annoying about a lot of these right-wing influencers. They make their whole brand about telling the truth, believing in free speech, rejecting safe spaces. Guys, I'm going to tell you a little story real quick, and I don't take it personally, so I'm not going to get into specifics, okay? I was talking about on a podcast that PragerU is putting out a video called No Safe Spaces with Adam Carolla, whatever. They did a whole documentary. No safe spaces. But the order on the college campus, I'm trying to find the exact thing real quick. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. It was around the same time. Look, this was December 2019. Trump signed an executive order to quash speech and protesting on college campuses. That's what this executive order was. Fighting anti-Semitism on college campuses, aka quashing free speech and free protest on college campuses. At the same time Donald Trump was doing that, PragerU was releasing a video called No Safe Spaces, some sort of documentary. So I said on the podcast, hey, Prager seems like a nice guy. They do a lot of good work. But how is he going to release a video called No Safe Spaces at the same time him and Trump and all these Republicans support safe space? They believe in safe spaces for Israeli conversations on college campus. And I was told this podcast is sponsored by PragerU. How am I going to how am I going to question the person who's paying the podcast? You get what I'm saying? It didn't mesh. Maybe for another reason, but my most likely analysis is the guy sponsoring the podcast that I'm criticizing probably doesn't want me to say that he's lying when he's lying, so they just shelf it. Maybe that's not what happened, but that's what I assume. So you get what I'm saying? A lot of people have quashed this conversation for years. A lot of people are misinformed. A lot of people are controlled by their bank. A lot of people are just doing what they think is socially acceptable. Like, yeah, maybe, but I'd rather get the money than do that. It's like, well, then this is my only request. Just be honest. Don't go to college campuses and tell people you support free speech when you don't. Don't go to college campuses and say you're against safe spaces when you're not. This is the annoying part. Just be honest about it. Yeah, we do believe in censorship when it comes to like Jewish stuff in Israel. And, just be honest. Be like, I'm a right-wing snowflake, be fair. Be like, listen, I do use the words racism and anti-Semitism, and I cry hate speech when somebody says something I don't want to hear. The people that make a living talking against that are the ones that support that. They've made a fortune telling you they support free speech, telling you they're against safe spaces, against snowflake culture. And then the second you question Jews or Israel, they turn into snowflakes and hate speech criers. Anybody, and I'm not saying this because I believe in hate and anger and violence, and I don't like evil. Anybody that uses the word anti-Semitism or racism or sexism in any form at this point, this is where I'm at. They can't figure out a better way to say it. If Louis Farrakhan says something and I just call him a racist, I'm not disproving what he's saying. I'm intellectually capable of countering what Louis Farrakhan's saying without calling him a racist. And if I'm not smart enough to figure out why it's wrong. That's my new rule. Anybody who uses these words are not smart enough to dissect it. As somebody who's heard a lot of Farrakhan speeches, because I've studied a lot of things, I've disagreed with him quite a few times. I consider him to be honest, he's part white. And, that seems to be like, I'm just being honest, something that I noticed. Like there was this MMA fighter that's like, oh, he called white people snow roaches. And everyone's like, oh, he's racist. I wouldn't even call him racist. He's just an idiot. Anyway, he lost in an MMA fight, this black guy that called white people snow roaches. I don't even care. Like, you think I'm offended by that? Oh my gosh. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over one guy's opinion of white people. Anyway, he loses in a fight. I check out his Wikipedia page, and guess what? Has one white parent and one mixed parent. The dude's more white than he is black, and he's out here hating on white people. I'm like, he's 75% or more than 50% white. A white parent and a mixed parent, and now you're black and you hate white people? Whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to call him a racist or hate. It's just funny. I'm like, this is the dynamic. Like, even Louis Farrakhan is part white. But that's fine. But the point I'm getting to is when I listen to a speech and if I disagree with something, I can't just call him a racist or an anti-Semite. What does that mean? Oh, you're a racist because you don't like George Floyd. You're a racist because you don't like BLM. You're an anti-Semite because you talked about Jewish media. It doesn't mean anything. Explain why he's wrong. And what you'll find out is Ben Shapiro can't explain why what Kanye West is saying is wrong, so he just calls him an anti-Semite. It's anti-Semitism. Black people saying that they're Jewish is anti-Semitism to him. If a black person says that they're Italian, do you think I care? Do you think I care? I'm black and I'm Italian. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I don't, like, do you think that's, like, why does that, oh, this black person says that, like, his ancestors were Christopher Columbus. Okay, I don't have to agree with that, but am I going to cry hate speech? Like, that's the crazy, this black person says that Jesus was black. Okay. I may or may not agree with that, but it's like, I don't care. I'm not going to call you a hate monger. It's like, it's actually funny. It's just like, not that specifically, but like some things, it's all perception and perspective. Lil Wayne and Jesse Lee Peterson are two black men who say they've never experienced racism. Lil Wayne has said gangbanger, got shot, very black. I'm not saying that like in a bad way. I'm just saying like he's not somebody who's not, you get like half white and you know what I'm saying, raised in a white suburb. Like Lil Wayne is black and he says he's never experienced racism. Jesse Lee Peterson says racism doesn't exist. You could talk to another black guy who's got light skin like Sean King and racism's everywhere. It's all perception and perspective. You manifest your own reality. How has Lil Wayne lived a blacker life than Colin Kaepernick, yet he's never experienced racism? But Colin Kaepernick was rescued by white people, adopted by white people, half black himself, raised in a white neighborhood, and he's the king of racism for Nike or whatever, or fighting racism. It's all perception. Lil Wayne's lived a way blacker, way harder life, in my opinion, than probably Kaepernick has. but he's never seen racism because he doesn't look for it, because that's not who he is. It's the same with anti-Semitism. One of my favorite Jewish people that I know, I have many, to be honest, I know a lot of great Jewish people who don't fit the mold of what I'm talking about today. One of my favorite Jewish people, which is hard to choose because I have quite a few Jewish people that I love. My one friend, he never uses the word racist or anti-Semitic. Like, he just laughs at things and has an opinion. He never plays the victim like that. He looks it in the face and says, whatever, I don't mind it. Maybe you're telling the truth, maybe you're not, but I'll decide. I'm not gonna, he'll say, I don't like what he said because it's not true. He doesn't use the word anti-Semitic because he doesn't have to, because he doesn't take it personally. And if, not everyone does that, but the people who do are just fake. It's like, it's a fake reaction to not want to address the situation at hand and just write it off as crazy. So that's my take. And let's see some of your comments. I'm going to read a few and then I'm going to take off. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I don't know where that interview is going to be. It's probably been wiped. I hope it's still on the Revolt TV website. I'm just saying, you don't have to. And let me be clear, because in this interview, it wasn't like the Tucker Carlson interview. Kanye West is a rapper, fashion designer, or he calls him Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, Ye. He's a lot of things, right? He's a billionaire, rap artist, producer, fashion designer, like CEO. But he's a black man who's been a rapper. So the reason I'm saying this is because in this interview, he talks how he talks. He's not dumb. He's smarter than Ben Shapiro. But Ben Shapiro says, oh, you're dumb because you use this language. You could use words, oh, this is rote anti-Semitism. This is rote anti-Semitism. Okay, use the word rote. That doesn't make you smart, Ben. I have a big vocabulary too, okay? I'm mostly Caucasian. I have a large vocabulary too, Ben. My large vocabulary doesn't make me smart. It makes me educated on how to use certain words, but it doesn't mean intelligence using big words. There's a lot of left-wingers at NPR that use words I've never heard of, and they're idiots. So to write Kanye off as crazy and below you because he speaks in broken English sometimes is the most Shapiro-y move that Shapiro's ever made. But in general, if you listen to that interview, you might not like it, because if you're not into certain street vernacular, you might not even understand what he's talking about. But Kanye's pretty clear with what he's saying. The co-host and stuff, the point I'm getting to, if you're not into hip hop, rap culture, you might not like the interview just based on how loose it is and how they speak. But for the most part, it's pretty obvious what Kanye's saying. It's not that hard to interpret if you're not lying to yourself. I consider it the most important interview of the decade, the most powerful interview of the decade, the biggest matrix-breaking interview of the decade. It's not revolutionary when a rapper comes and is liberal. That's nothing. It's definitely shocking when a rapper comes out and likes Trump and puts on a red hat. That was epic. That was matrix breaking. But he's gone to like the fifth matrix, and now he's talking about a group of people that no one will talk about because it's one of the biggest victim cards in the world. Maybe the gay victim card has surpassed the Jewish victim card. I'm not really sure. I do think the gays have gone to that level where they don't want to be questioned, don't want to be joked about. I would even argue that the gay LGBT left-wing community has gone even further than the Jewish community in the sense of they don't even want you to joke about them, talk about them, disagree. It might be the bigger victim card now. But besides that, Kanye's shattering dragons out here by looking in the face a lot of these CEOs that have done him dirty and saying, I'm going to call the media this. At one point, Kanye even says that the Jewish media, hated Donald Trump, so Kanye's going hard now to try to get them on his side. He's like, y'all are going to love me in a year when I run for president, or he won't say he's running. But it's if you're not a snowflake, it's actually a very insightful interview, even if you don't agree with certain parts, because there are things that he said that I'm not even sure I agree with. I'm not him, and there's, he's got certain ideas about ethnicity and his race, and, that I don't know that I would say or believe, but I could tell you this for sure. Nothing offended me in the interview. I'm not offended by people's words. Louis Farrakhan doesn't offend me. Kanye West doesn't offend me. Ben Shapiro doesn't offend me. Dave Rubin doesn't offend me. Ilhan Omar doesn't offend me. Like, these people don't offend me. I don't, like, you're a liar, you know? This is what I do to AOC. I don't call her a racist. You're just a liar. You're lying. And I'll tell you how you're lying. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not asking you to let people lie and be evil and deceitful and just be like, that's fine, I don't care. I'm just saying, call it for what it is. If I just said AOC's a racist, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything anymore. Here's why I think AOC's a liar. Here's what she said. Here's the truth. Here's what Ilhan Omar said. Here's why I think she's a liar. Here's what she said. Here's the truth. Here's not, oh, just don't say that because it hurts my feelings. Just don't say that because that's anti-Semitic. That's racist. That's, you know, that doesn't mean anything. That means that you don't know how to disprove them. In my opinion, I will never, unless I'm being sarcastic or joking, use the word racist to win an argument. What does that mean? It means you're bad and I'm good. It's a fake moral high ground. And all these people calling people anti-Semites, very few of them were in the streets with the Orthodox Jews in 2019. Very few of them were talking about Israel when they were being forced vaccinated with the Pfizer, mandate campaign. Very few of them were standing up with Jews when Jews needed it the most, yet they feel so comfortable to tell you how much they love Jews. It's the same vibes as the left wing. Oh, we love black people so much. You show up to an all-black party or a black barbecue, and they look at you like a weirdo. You're like, oh, I wear my George Floyd shirt. Look how not racist I am. They're like, nobody likes you. I show up to a black party, and I don't act like a weirdo, and we act like human beings having a good time. You can lie to the internet. Oh, I'm so cool. You're not invited to the barbecue. Nobody believes you. That's why you fake the moral high ground. It's the same with the Jewish stuff. Why, like, oh yeah, you're so not racist because you stood up for Jews. Give me a break. Give me a break. Because you typed something on Twitter about how mean Kanye West was, you like Jews more than him? Sure. Maybe someone will believe that, but I don't. It fakes the moral high ground. If I'm in a debate and I call you a racist or an anti-Semite, what that means is I'm a better person than you. You're a bad person. I'm not hateful. You're hateful. And I'm not even going to explain myself because I don't have to. It's hateful. It's racist. What is hate? I know what real hate is and real anger is and real evil is. But when people say hate, some people hate the truth. Some people hate reality. Some people hate the right side of politics that's doing more good. A lot of people hate, green beans. It's like, it's all subjective. So when you say he's spewing hate, maybe he's spewing hate because he's really being hateful. Maybe he is being a little emotional, a little angry. But is there any truth there? Of course. He's spewing hate. Maybe he's saying something that you hate to hear because you hate the truth and you hate the idea that your bank account might be a little emptier if all is said and done. Maybe that's the hate, At the end of the interview, Kanye West actually admitted that he was slightly jealous of the Jewish people and what they did for his own people. I considered it a coming circle where he's basically saying, I see what you're doing. I see that you don't allow my community to do it. I wear a White Lives Matter shirt to break the narrative, and I respect what you do for your people, but let me do it for my people. That was the whole gist I got of the thing. Not, I viciously hate all Jewish people, they're terrible and they do nothing. Basically, like, he's like, I've been screwed over by 30 Jewish executives in this industry, and I feel that they're being hypocritical and not letting me do what they're doing, and I want to do what they're doing. That was really the gist of what he was saying. Did certain words, could they have been words? I mean, is this how we are now on the right wing? Words bother us? Like, it's just like such a joke. Like a word, that's the big thing. He said come on. The energy's there. It feels like a special moment. Like it's the most important interview of the entire decade. And a lot of people in the Christian world have been brainwashed into thinking that they're not allowed to call out wickedness in a certain group the same way they call out wickedness in their own group. And it goes for all races, religions, etc. I don't think God wants you to ignore evil in the world if someone that you like, you get what I'm saying? Christians, in my opinion, not all, but some, for thousands of years, they've understood, Jesus was Jewish, but there's good and bad in the Jewish community like every community. So where did this idea come from? When Jesus was alive, a lot of people were Jewish. You know what I'm saying? At those times. So the Bible doesn't say that Jewish people are gods and they can't make mistakes. and you have to defend George Soros and, Jared Kushner. That's not what the Bible says. It actually doesn't say that at all. But in the early 1900s, there was a multi-million-dollar push for something called the Schofield Bible, which was a Bible that had a footnote that brainwashed a lot of conservatives into thinking that their whole existence was around establishing Israel for the Jewish people and regaining that territory or taking it from the Palestinians, depending how you view that situation. Some people are on each side of the argument. It's not my fight. But in general, that's where Christians get this idea from, that they're not allowed to question any Jewish person, from the Schofield Bible. This didn't exist before that. Martin Luther knew it. Every great Christian in history knew that this wasn't true, but somehow everybody nowadays, it's because all of these churches, these right-wing churches, are like TPUSA, PragerU, Zionist churches, and they just tell you that your whole existence relies around serving another country that doesn't, in many cases, even believe in the same religion or God that you believe in. How does that make sense? Why would Jesus Christ make a religion where a group of people could defile his word and disagree with him completely and hate him, and you need to treat them as if they're a Jesus? It doesn't make any sense, because it's not true. There's good and bad all over the place. You know what I'm saying? It's like God doesn't want you to serve Satan because a group of people, it doesn't make any sense. But people have been brainwashed into thinking they have to do that. Oh, I can't say that because so is that your new religion, that you're worshiping an entire group of people where even if some of them skew from good and go to wickedness, that you have to defend their evil because they're unquestionable? Then your religion is not Christianity anymore. It's a blasphemous religion where you've created a God group out of humanity and you're treating them with differences than others. That's not in the Bible. It's a lie, and it's being perpetuated by a bunch of right-wing, Zionist groups so they can do their political and geopolitical bidding, which sometimes includes getting millions of your country killed in a foreign country for something that you have no idea why you're there. Whether it be Iraq, Afghanistan, it's like, give your money to Ukraine, whatever, sure, everybody take my money. If our capital crumbles, Nancy Pelosi will still funnel our money overseas, she says. Like, what? It's not my religion. Someone said Kanye admitted he sold his soul to the devil for fame. Listen, you could say what you want about Kanye. He's not my best friend. I've never met him. I can't speak. That interview, most important interview of the decade. You could lie on his name. You could say that he can't repent, or he has no value, and you're so right and he's so wrong. I talk to people like this. Oh, Kanye's so evil. Kanye's so bad. Okay, did you listen to the interview? Oh no, I don't have to because I'm so smart. You're not smart. You're like Dave Rubin. You're blaspheming Kanye because you're not on his level. If you can put out a 3-hour podcast and impress me and say more important things, then I'll say you're important. But it's still not going to hit as hard because you're not as famous as Kanye. So even though there have been people who've told more truth, the fact that the number one most famous person in the world just did it on a high scale is more important than me or you. So, I'm not saying he's your best friend. I'm not saying he's never done wrong. I'm just saying that interview, most important interview of the decade. And people trying to get you not to listen to it or say that it's bad, it's like, whatever, you can think what you want, but I'd prefer if people listen to it, thought for themselves, and then if you disagreed with me or disagreed with what he's saying, that's one thing. But don't talk about something you haven't even heard and act like you're above it. I mean, it's all good. Someone said can't watch the interview because it's private. Let me see if it's on the Drink Champs website. Let's see. Is it on there? Hold on one second. Oh, they took it off. Wow. They took it off of Drink Champs website too. This entire interview within 48 hours has been deleted off of the website. It's been deleted off of YouTube. They're going to try to bury this interview like it never existed. I'm telling you, I don't care what people say. They've already blacklisted me. They've already lied about me. It's the most important podcast of the entire decade. And that's why it got deleted off YouTube within 12 hours. That's why it got deleted off their website. Hopefully it's on BitChute or, Rumble. I bet you somebody put it on BitChute, but in general, BitChute.com, I don't know, but watch it while you can. They're going to burn that book like it never existed. They're going to try to book burn that completely and act like it isn't real. It doesn't exist. I wouldn't even be surprised if they start going on Twitter and trying to delete clips of it. We'll see what happens, but most important podcast of the entire decade. They're going to wipe. I mean, what he just did was revolutionary. He stood as one of the biggest people in the world and said, I'm going to say everything that you don't want me to say. I'm going to say everything that left-wing media doesn't want me to say. I'm going to say everything that the GOP wouldn't dare say. I'm not saying Kanye would make a great president, but what he just did right there was more important than, in my opinion, than anything Trump ever did. Anything anybody in the GOP did. Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk. That interview was more profound and important and deeper. And also revealing a lot of the music industry and culture and what they're doing, not just to black activism, to celebrities, to rappers. It's like, I mean, that was legendary. I'm glad I heard it before it deleted. I'm gonna try to find it again. But let's see. What interview? Kanye West on Drink Champs. Someone said he did satanic symbolism with Travis Scott and Manson. Listen, I'm not him. I don't do that. He's definitely somebody who does things and pushes the boundary, but this is just my guess. I don't know. I think Kanye West, first of all, has lived a very imperfect life. He's a paradox in many ways. He does a lot of things that don't make sense. Like, okay, you're trying to be a Christian, but you married Kim Kardashian. You know, I get why people would not like him. I'm not asking you to like him. But also, this is kind of my thing with the symbolism and stuff. I wouldn't put it out, but if you truly believe in yourself and you believe in God and you believe in Christ, you're not a weak person. Like, so many people that I find that are Christians, like, oh my God, like if a symbol's going to break your Christianity and break your will with God, then you're not strong. You know, I believe Kanye has this mentality, like, I can win with Christ on my side. There's so many people saying they're going to kill him, they're going to do this. You're a coward. I'm just going to let you know you're a coward. Keep your fear to yourself, because there's some of us out here that don't have fear. We're not cowards. And the world isn't changed by a bunch of little fearless cowards who are afraid to say anything. The world is changed by fearless, courageous people. He's courageous. He believes with the power of Christ and the power of God that he can crack through even the craziest spell and the craziest symbol and the craziest people on earth. And that's how you win, is by believing you can. So I'm tired of all these little pseudo-feary little crabs being like, oh my God, you're going to die. Oh my God, you're going to get deleted. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You're working with the devil. Your fear is playing into the devil by saying, I'm too scared to do the right thing. I'm too scared for Kanye to do the right thing. So I'm going to be a little weasel coward and sit on the sidelines and tell him that something bad's going to happen and manifest satanic things on him because I'm in my own life too afraid. You don't become a BMX dirt biker by being afraid of breaking your head. You don't become a quarterback by being afraid of being tackled. And you don't become a great person in any aspect of society by being afraid. So if you're afraid, keep it to yourself. Don't project it onto Kanye West because you're soft. Don't project it onto me. You can't do anything great by being afraid in this world. So if you're afraid, sit there and be pathetic, okay? But don't act like no one else can do anything great. Well, they're going to come for him. Some of us believe with the power of God that no one can come for us and no one can stop us and no one can defile us, okay? That's called real Christ energy, real God energy. Not this, I'm a Christian, but I'm afraid of a symbol. I'm a Christian, but I'm afraid for him. I'm a Christian, but I'm afraid. I'm sure you're afraid. That's why your country's getting taken over and you're going to be whittled into nothing soon because you're so afraid, because you're so cowardly. Some of us aren't. So if you are, keep it to yourself, okay? Don't project it onto Kanye West, because I believe that I could walk into a room of 50,000 satanic symbols and I'll be fine, because I have the power of God and I'm not afraid of a symbol. I'm not afraid of a billionaire. I'm not afraid of the media. And you don't do anything great or beat them by being afraid. So if you're afraid, keep it to yourself, okay? Don't manifest negative outcomes on Kanye West, who's 20,000 times as strong of a Christian as you, and 20,000 times as strong as a man as you, and 20,000 times as more important than you. And I'm not saying he's more important because as a human, I'm just saying his interview is 20,000 times more important than what I'm doing right now, because it's reaching that many more people. And it's a message that I can't reach that many people. I'm not saying as a human he's more important than me or you, but this moment is important. So you trying to cover up and minimalize this moment in an interview that you didn't even hear, or that you want to just silence because you think he did something with Marilyn Manson a year ago, I don't care, okay? He's not my pastor. He's not my preacher. He's not my church, guy. He's not my hero or role model. He's not my idol. He's not my politician. So I'm not really asking you to be Kanye West or believe everything he's done is moral. I'm just asking you for the moment to not try to cover up and diminish the greatest podcast of this decade that has been wiped off of YouTube within 12 hours, that has been wiped off of their own website and their own server. There's a reason it's been wiped off, because it's the greatest and most important podcast in this decade. And I don't care if it's Zuby, and I don't care if it's Dave Rubin, and I don't care if it's Ben Shapiro, and I don't care if it's left-wing media, and I don't care if it's PragerU, little, ambassadors. I don't care who you are. Do not diminish the greatest podcast of this decade. Say what you want, but crying hate speech and anti-Semitism, and you don't want people to hear it. Yeah, because that's your way of being a liberal now. That's what liberals do. When they can't be better than you, they have to silence you. Why don't they want to debate? Because if they debate, they lose. This is now what right-wingers are doing, because Kanye West has come and done something that they can't do. Either they're too dishonest to do, or incapable, or they don't know, or they're not educated on the topic. I'm not sure. But I'm here to tell you that podcast is important. So anybody trying to diminish it or cover it up while left-wing media is deleting it, while YouTube's deleting it, he mentioned the woman who pretty much runs YouTube, okay? Her ethnic group, he mentioned it. So that's why it's getting deleted. If he just said white liberals and white media, that podcast is not getting deleted, okay? So it's more important than you, okay? I don't care if you're Dave Rubin, don't care if you're Ben Shapiro, not gonna let them cover this up, okay? Not gonna let them mislead people from actually listening to themselves. If you find it on BitChute and you hear it, it's probably on BitChute. Someone said it was. If you hear it for yourself and you think it's so terrible that no one should ever hear it, and there's nothing truthful in there or nothing important, and there's nothing there, no value at all, then to be. But if you're just going to watch a clip or go off of what someone else is saying just because you think he did something a year ago that you didn't like, sorry, I'm not having it right now. Someone said it's on Rumble. I'm sure it is. Someone said Nori's an amazing rapper, but it sucks they have to cave like this. Well, Kanye also called out P. Diddy and said he was a Fed, basically, or Meek Mill was a Fed, and P. Diddy owns Revolt. So, Kanye went crazy hard. He's talking bad about the guy who pretty much owns the media company when he's sitting right there. Kanye said in the interview, come kill me. I don't care. You can't stop me. Kanye said, I'm Moses for my people. Do what you want to do to me. He said, if you do something to me, there's going to be 1,000 yays. It's too late. I just let the secret out. I just opened the floodgates. That's the energy Kanye said. Try me. He said, pull up to this interview right now. I don't care what you do. You've poked the bear for too long. It's epic. It's the most epic podcast of the decade. I'm not going to let any influencer that's never done anything that interesting or important in their life try to act like that was too hateful for you to see or too bigoted. It's too bigoted. Give me a break. Give me a break. Someone say he went all in. He went all in. He put it all on the line. It was epic. Don't care. I'm not a snowflake. I'm not going to, it's like, if there's 3 hours of just like crazy truth, but then like a few parts bother me, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh my gosh, the whole thing is a racist. Like, no, shut up. No. It was epic. Okay, there might be parts that make you feel uncomfortable. There might be parts that bother you. There might even be parts that Kanye West is being too emotional, where he says something that might not be the greatest thing. But to sit and just say like, oh, he's hateful, he's crazy, give me a break. That was the most epic and the most brave. And I'm not even going to explain myself, but he went Prince in that interview. He went more Prince than Prince. He went more Michael Jackson than Michael Jackson. And I'm not going to even explain what that means, but he went there. He's as big as these people, if not perhaps maybe even bigger, and he went further than anyone's ever gone ever. Epic. I won't stand for any blasphemy on that podcast. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with everything, but you do not, and real quick, and then I'm going to take off. This is what annoys me so much about so many Republicans. Let's get it clear. I've never seen a podcast like this get wiped off of not just YouTube, which I knew it was going to happen. It also got wiped off of their server. They're trying to bury it like it never existed. So this is where controlled opposition comes in. And I'm not saying that these people are paid to do this. I'm just saying they're acting like weasels right now. Okay? As it's getting removed by left-wing media, YouTube, other forces, you have right-wing influencers saying, he's crazy, he's anti-Semitic, he's racist, as the left wing is slapping you, the right wing's slapping you. This is what they always do. As the left wing is mandating the vaccine, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is running around Arkansas telling people to get the Trump vaccine. Why? They're not going to reach herd immunity with the vaccine. They're going to reach herd slavery, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Okay, Benedict Arnold in a dress. Why are you trying to vaccinate one of the least vaccinated places in the South? What's that going to do if a bunch of Trump supporters and Southerners get vaccinated to high levels? They're not going to reach herd immunity, Sarah Huckabee. You know what's going to happen? Herd slavery. And the only reason that we're free right now is because Republicans, Trump supporters, and Southerners didn't listen to Sarah Huckabee Sanders and get the Trump vaccine, because if they would have listened, we'd probably still be in a mandated world. The only reason they can't do it is because people stop listening. So she's trying to get you to comply. As the left's mandating the vaccine, she's telling you to get it. As the left's mandating the vaccine, Donald Trump's selling it as this great thing. It's the same thing as Kanye's being censored by the entire media for giving the realest interview of the decade. Zuby and Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro are calling him hateful and racist. They're slapping you as the left-wing media slapping you. Slap, 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 slap. What about telling the truth? It's the greatest podcast of this decade. It's the most epic podcast of this decade. 90-something% of it is just raw truth, raw Christ-like energy, raw soul just being spilled out, unfiltered, with no real direction. And as the left-wing media is trying to delete it, you're going to call it hate speech? Oh, but you're so free speech, right? But that's hate speech. You're against safe spaces, but you need a safe space. Oh, but I'm not for the censorship. I just think it was anti-Semitic and hateful. Well, according to YouTube's website, anti-Semitism and hate speech is a reason to delete it. So if you're calling it anti-Semitic and hate speech, and they delete anti-Semitism and hate speech, you're calling for it to get censored. You're on the side of evil. You're controlled opposition. I'm not saying they're controlled like everybody's buying them out. I'm just saying you're not righteous. You're not right. You're wrong. You're on the side of evil. You're on the side of control and communism when you're fighting it. You get what I'm saying? If they're deleting Ben Shapiro for Islamophobia and they say we need to delete this video because of Islamophobia, and I say Ben Shapiro's an Islamophobic, but I'm against it. No, you're branding him on something that they censor. That's what they're doing. It's bigotry, it's hate speech, it's anti-Semitic, but I'm against the censorship. No, you're not. You liars, you're not. If you were against the censorship, you'd give it a different terminology and disprove it based on what he said. But you can't disprove what he said because most of it was true. So you then smear him as crazy and lunatic. What happens to crazy people? What happens to lunatics who go bananas? What happens to anti-Semites? They get kicked off social media. Oh, but I don't want them kicked off. Yeah, you scumbags do. I know you're pro-censorship, Ben Shapiro. I know you're pro-censorship, Dave Rubin. Give me a break. The grift is done. And Dave Rubin, just for the record, bro, are you a good host? Yes. Do you give good interviews? Absolutely. Are you funny? Is your stand-up funny? You're one of the least funny people I've ever met. How long were you a professional stand-up? Every stream I do is funnier than anything you've ever done in your life. Kanye West's interview is funnier than anything you've ever done in your life as a professional comedian. And then you have the nerve to act like he's crazy when literally that 3 hours was funnier than the best stand-up you've ever made in your life. You're a liberal. You're trying to censor somebody who's better than you to make yourself look better. You're doing the same thing the left-wingers do. When they can't beat you, they try to censor you and call you crazy and call you bigoted. Dave Rubin's doing the same thing because he's not funny. Is he a good host? Yes. Does he give good interviews? Absolutely. Is he a good comedian? Of course not. He's not funny at all. What I just said right now, and I'm not even trying to be funny, is funnier than his funniest stand-up. I watched 3 minutes of him being like, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay. It's like, ha ha ha, like, good one, bro. You know? Such a joke. And I just can't sit here and watch people blaspheme somebody getting censored. I did the same thing, and I don't put Kanye on the same level as Joe Rogan because they're different. I don't, they're different people. But like with Joe, I'm not saying you got to like him, but so many people, when he was trying to get kicked off Spotify, were like, yeah, kick him off. I mean, or yeah, he's a joke. It's like, they're like, if you don't get behind somebody who's getting censored at the moment, the reason they were censoring Joe Rogan wasn't because Joe Rogan's perfect or your best friend or he's never done anything shady. The reason they censored Joe Rogan is because he was hosting doctors who were going against the COVID narrative, and Joe Rogan has one of the biggest platforms in the world, so it's important. It's not about me or you or Joe Rogan. Do you want that truth to get to people, and do you want to fight the mandates and the COVID narrative? How many people were like, oh, who cares about it? It's like, dude, once they go for him, they're coming for you. Once they kick off Kanye or Alex or whoever, they're coming for you. I'm not saying you have to like them, but to me, it says a lot about people while they're getting kicked off of stuff. They were like, yeah, that's fine. It's like, like justifying it because they don't like certain things that they do. I'm not saying, I don't think Joe Rogan is Kanye. I'm just saying, like, I'm like, what do you think's going to happen if Joe Rogan gets kicked off Spotify? Like, is it going to be replaced by something better? No, it's going to send the message to anybody that counters the COVID narrative that you're done. You're done. We just got rid of him. Now, if he can't even do it, you're definitely not going to last very long. So it's the same thing with like the Trump getting kicked off of Twitter. It's like, it sucks that he spent a year selling vaccines after it, but when he's getting kicked off, it's like, imagine if you're calling Trump a racist and, oh, Trump's a racist and a sexist and a xenophobe and a conspiracy theorist, but I'm against him getting kicked off Twitter. No, Trump didn't get kicked off Twitter because he's a racist, sexist, xenophobic conspiracy theorist. He's not as controllable as other people, or he speaks like he's not, and he's unfiltered, and they needed something to get him out, and they used the January 6th thing. So it's like, I don't want to hear, you don't have to like somebody, but just stop using the words of the censor. This is what my book's about. I'm very educated on it. It's almost definitely going to come out this December. Sorry for being wrong. Sorry for being so wrong about when it was coming out. I'm like, it's coming out this month. I'm always delaying it. But like my whole book is about these words. These are the words of the censor: racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, xenophobic, hate speech. These are the words of the censor. So if you don't support censorship, stop using these words unironically, because these are the words that they use to get rid of people. So if you use these words, you are supporting their narrative. There's no such thing as hate speech. There's right and wrong and true and false, okay? There's no such thing as, well, that's got to be racist or anti-Semitic because it's just this. Like, it's hate speech that Kanye said black people are Jews. Like that, I mean, it might be wrong. He might be wrong. He might be right. I don't know. To be honest, I don't care enough to really know. Like, if Kanye said black people are the real Italians, I don't care enough to even study that. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but like, do you think I would say that that's rote anti-Italianism and he needs to shut? Like, what? Why are you so sensitive, Ben? I get it that it's like, I think the reason it's such a threat to Ben Shapiro is because Ben Shapiro's entire existence revolves around him playing the victim and, using his exclusive victim card that no one else can touch. So if a black man wants to criticize Ben's group and say he is his group in order to do so, that bothers Ben because now Ben's victim card is not exclusive. And Ben doesn't want Kanye to have his victim card. He wants Kanye to have a different victim card. So like, I think that's why Ben's so upset. Why else? I mean, you could say it from a racial perspective, be like, no, you're not my ethnicity, stop lying. That's fine. But to write it off as just this massive hate speech, he might be wrong, but just say why he's wrong, explain it. This is my lineage. This is my heritage. You could say, I'm Ben Shapiro, I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, and this is why you're not the same as me. Say that. I don't care. But to just write it off as like hate speech, like, what does that even mean? I don't like, there are actually black Italians or Italians that are darker. So it's like, there are Sephardic Jews, I'm not, to be quite fair, I'm not, I don't care enough about that specific to really dive into it, but I'm definitely not going to call it hateful. So appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thank you for this. I appreciate it. It's going on Spotify, iTunes. I mean, who knows? Hopefully it'll last. I don't know how heavy they're going to censor that podcast, but I would say try to find it if you can, because it's nothing like anything you'll ever hear any Republican say. It's certainly nothing you'll ever hear a liberal black rapper say. You're not going to hear what he said. So this is my thing. even with Andrew Tate, real quick. A lot of people tell me, oh, I hate Andrew Tate. I like Andrew Tate. It's 50-50. I did a poll on my Instagram. 50% of my audience liked Andrew Tate. 50% of my audience disliked Andrew Tate. I have to say, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have a 50-50 split. Oh, Anomaly's so biased in that. How does half of my audience like a guy and half of the audience dislikes him? That's pretty cool. I love the fact that went 50-50. I personally like Andrew Tate, not because he's my idol or I look up to him, because I think he has value. So when I listen to a podcast of Andrew Tate, I don't agree with everything he says, but there's value there, and I find him more interesting than most people. Not all people, but most. So I almost take it not personally, but I find it, and I try to stand up for the greats in the society the same way that nobody ever stands up for me when they blacklist me and try to keep me at opportunities. I don't care. The people stand with me. People share my videos. I've surpassed all the blacklisting, got 1 billion views. Suck it. Excuse my language, but suck it. Everybody that's tried to blacklist me and kick me out and say I wouldn't make it, yeah, I got bigger than you'll ever get. I've reached more people than you'll ever reach, and that's called God. That's called the people. That's called I'm uncancelable. But in general, I look for value. It's like I don't want to hear somebody saying everything I already know. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I like comedy, but I want value. Andrew Tate, I don't agree with everything he said, but he's interesting. He has value. And then a bunch of people who have no value, who aren't interesting, want to come along and cancel Andrew Tate. I would go and say 95% of people who are crying about Andrew Tate aren't as interesting, don't have as much value, aren't as smart. Isn't that interesting? The people without knowledge, that aren't interesting, want to cancel the guy that's more interesting. Why can't you just put out your podcast and get more views than him, or build your own audience? Oh, you're fine with him getting canceled because you don't agree with everything he says? No, this is what society does. They try to cancel people that are in their way. I don't need to cancel anybody. I want to be great. If I'm not great enough to reach the position, then that's on me to be great. If you don't think I'm good at music or what I do, then I got to keep being great. I got to get to the point where I'm uncancelable and I've proved some of my doubters wrong. That's just how it works. But with Kanye and Andrew Tate, it's the same sort of thing. The people who try to cancel him the hardest, left wing and right wing, aren't as interesting as him, aren't as don't have as much gems that he has or value that he has, so they want to eliminate it to make themselves look better. They won't admit that to themselves, but it's like, why else are you so threatened by it? There's multiple things that Andrew Tate has said that I'm like, I don't even know if I think that, I don't even know who he really is, because there's some things that he's done that I consider immoral. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm like, I don't like that. But I'm not out here trying to cancel him. Kanye West, he's lived a life that I've never lived, but I'm not out here calling him a hate monger, to try to cover up his information. They're trying to cover up the gems that exist in there. And I'd rather listen to somebody who makes me feel uncomfortable, who teaches me 50 different things, than somebody who tells me everything I already know. I like that. So that's all I'm going to say about the Kanye interview. Might not like it, might have never heard it, maybe have, maybe think it's hateful, but I guarantee you that interview will be like nothing you've ever heard before. And all of these PragerU, TPUSA drones that are like, oh my God, it's hateful. I guarantee you they could never, nothing they say is even it. They're interchangeable. Close your eyes, listen to 50 of them. They're all the same. They're not unique. They don't have any insight that hasn't been said. Oh, the left sucks. Yeah, we know. What are you providing? You're not making a documentary like Candace Owens. Oh, Candace is so hateful for hanging out. She's making a documentary about vaccines. She made a documentary about BLM. Where's your documentary? You don't have one because you're too busy hating on everybody else doing stuff out here that's better than yours. So I just don't want to hear all these people trying to, oh, Candace needs to be canceled because she's friends with Kanye. Oh, Kanye needs to be canceled because, TPUSA ambassador? What have you done? What thrilling, insight do you have? You just copy paste things that Charlie Kirk says. You don't think for yourself. You think for yourself in the frame of what they tell you to think, and you've never thought really much in your life. You get comfortable in that narrative and you become a replaceable clone. So I'm not out here hating on other people in your grind, but the last thing I'm going to allow is for some of the least impressive people in society to try to cancel and blaspheme the greatest people in society. Sorry, that's not going to happen on my watch, and I'm going to have a say in it. And there's some great people trying to blaspheme him too, but I'm not going to stand for it. I don't think that's what's going on, and I at least want people to listen to it, because what he said and the things he covered, you're not going to hear for a very, I mean, maybe you will, but you're not going to hear it again. And it's really never been said before on the level he said it in 30 years. And nobody's really as famous as him. So it matters, you know, to a high extent, how many people heard that interview to some extent. Don't just watch the clips, watch the full interview. That's my take. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Left-wingers, right-wingers, prove your point, make your argument, state your case, stop using the words racist and anti-Semitic to cover up something that you're emotionally, you know, I would say triggered by or snowflaked by, because it's not genuine, and I'm not going to stand for it. As the media is cracking down on him and trying to eliminate this, I'm not letting that narrative be the narrative. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back soon.